Okay, on to a bit of brain science, but first, a little theoretical brain science. In a recent Scientific American article, a blog actually, the January 17, 2012 edition online, entitled The Creativity of Dual Process System 1 Thinking, Scott Barry Kaufman and Jerome Singer discuss two different forms of cognition. System 1 cognition is rapid, prone to exaggeration, and involves creative thinking. System 2 cognition is logical, rational, slow, and critical. It resembles left brain, right brain studies, where left brainers are typically analytical and right brainers are creative, and all of us have a combination of both of these. Anyway, in another book called The Other Brain by cognitive neuroscientist R. Douglas Fields, brain science has discovered and are making groundbreaking discoveries about glia. Glial cells, or neuroglia, formerly thought to be just the glue that holds our neurons together, hence the name glia or glue, actually make up 85% of the cells in our brain. Glia cross the blood-brain barrier and do not operate on electrical signals, but govern everything that neurons seem to do, such as myelin sheathing or insulation around neurons that govern how fast our neurons fire. Incidentally, Einstein had the same number of neurons as you and I do, at least compared to the 11 other brains they sliced up to compare to his. Interestingly, Einstein had twice as many glia. I list them here as astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, microglia, and a fourth I can't pronounce. There are more. I also want you to consider theorists like J.V. Wallach and how he is exploring sensory perception and discoveries about DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, also known as the spirit molecule. DMT is a naturally occurring hallucinogen in the human body. Wallach makes this striking conclusion. Waking reality can be thought of as a tightly regulated psychedelic experience. This here is an illustration of the pineal body or pineal gland where DMT may in part be endogenous. Now, what does this have to do with UFOs and extraterrestrials? Well, consider that Rick Strassman, in a National Institutes of Health study, explored the administration of a DMT compound in the lab, which caused those lucky participants to have vivid hallucinations, often of alien beings. It's as if we are in the Matrix and possibly surrounded by extraterrestrials or some kind of entities, but just haven't swallowed the blue pill yet or cranked up enough DMT to see what's going on. I'll try not to lose you here, but if you picture the human brain, it has different basic structures that grow and develop in a sequential order. Each of these regions is responsible for mediating different functions. The brainstem mediates body temperature, heart rate, blood pressure. The midbrain, or diencephalon, mediates appetite, satiety, and sleep. That's the red part in this animation. The limbic system mediates emotional reactivity, and incidentally, the pineal body is part of the limbic system. The cortical part of the brain and neocortex mediates abstract and concrete thought. All I want you to do is keep in mind these two things. First, the mediation of these functions grows and develops in this sequential order. It grows in complexity. From birth to 9 months, the brainstem; from 6 months to 2 years, the midbrain; to 1 to 4 years, the limbic system; and 3 to 6 years old, the cortex. We know this because children who experience adverse experiences like trauma and abuse during these critical periods seem to lack the ability to fully master and regulate the functions that correspond to the timing of the event when they were abused or neglected. Second, these systems can be changed with input from the environment, but the older the structure is, like down in the brainstem, the less malleable or changeable it is. And the newer or more recent the development of the structure, the more malleable it is. This is also called plasticity. For example, you can change your thoughts pretty easily, and you can tune me out pretty easily if you choose, but you'll have greater difficulty changing your emotional states and responses to what I'm saying, and even greater difficulty controlling your hunger as we approach lunch and your desire to sleep during this part of the presentation. Only yogis with years of meditation practice can control their blood pressure, heart rate, or body temperature. However, your environment is constantly influencing all these systems. Think of how music, drumming, and chanting can evoke emotions, which in turn can affect what you're thinking. What you expose yourself to and the exercises you employ in the waking world can help you heal. So if we wanted to heal you from trauma you experienced during your development, repetitive rhythms like in drumming or chanting or the therapy known as EMDR, that's eye movement desensitization and retraining, or music and movement, can all have an effect up the scale to help you regulate these functions and improve your ability to interact with the world and in your relationships. Dr. Bruce Perry reminds us, that there are two functions of the brain and the body. For that matter, they are to bring you back to a state of equilibrium and responding to an ever-changing world. Given the plasticity of our brain, how it develops in complexity and our ability to subtly demonstrate ESP phenomenon, presumably aliens would probably know this. Anyway, beyond these therapeutic methods are psychoanalysis, meditation, contemplative prayer, vision quests, and other spiritual practices that can continue to bring about another feature of life and consciousness with which ET could be very familiar. This feature is what is known as, you already saw it, physiological coherence. Physiological coherence, as per the Institute of Heart Math, defines it as the degree of order, harmony, or stability in the waveform that reflect the rhythmic activity of any given physiological system over a specified period. In other words, your heartbeat has a consistent pattern from moment to moment when you are physiologically coherent. This is tied to your emotional state, which you can affect using biofeedback technology, which incidentally can be done with a machine called the M-wave, that's E-M and the word wave. What I want to underline in the definition of physiological coherence is that it involves any given physiological system, not just the human heart. But at least in the human heart, physiological coherence and optimal health in general can be studied as a physiological state that aligns directly with emotional states we subjectively experience. But are those emotional states nasty and rude? No. They are optimal functioning in a physiological system. They are associated with emotional states I list here: gratitude, beauty, appreciation, thankfulness, and harmony. Now, aliens may not have developed with our type of brain structure, but these two functions of equilibrium and responding to the environment seem to be something that is part of all life we have observed to this point. If J.V. Wallach is roughly correct in stating that waking reality is indeed like a tightly regulated psychedelic experience, then perhaps you can get a sense that the awareness and free will you have from moment to moment, i.e. your consciousness or essential awareness and attention, is something that can allow you to perform all kinds of abilities not only on yourself, but with others in the environment, such as telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, telekinesis, the big four, which are all characteristics ascribed to aliens. The idea here is that physiological coherence, which can be illustrated as torus, the donut-shaped field not unlike the magnetic field surrounding our planet, seems to be embedded in the fabric of life itself, that can perhaps explain how cats and dogs can detect cancer in their owners. That's quite a guess there. If positive emotions are considered critical to optimal functioning in biological systems, my question is, do you think E.T. would have figured this out? The second thing you might want to be considering is, why do I seem to be so anthropomorphic? After all, isn't all life on planet Earth just based on carbon? Couldn't life be based on silicon or some other thing?